Hello, my name is Catherine Achen, and I'm a recent graduate from New Mexico State University with my PhD in curriculum and instruction, with an emphasis in online teaching and learning and educational learning technology. I am also an assistant professor of business at Doñana Community College, where I also serve as the director of online quality assurance. In my role as director of online quality assurance, I found an interest in doing research in the transition from emergency remote teaching to online quality courses for faculty at a community college. So, as we all know, COVID-19 has turned our worlds completely upside down. And in spring 2020, during spring break for our spring semester, we were told to take an extended 2-week break and maybe prepare for a week or two to be online until all of this COVID cleared up. As we all know, it did not clear up, and we ended up spending the rest of that semester online. We had to scramble to put our courses online, and this has been called many things. One term, which I have chosen to use in this research, was emergency remote teaching. As we all know, many students and many professors had never been online before. So this was truly a huge effort on everyone's part to make sure that we kept students in school, finishing the semester, and for some students, they were able to still graduate. Before the pandemic, only 1/3 of students had ever actually been in an online class, and the same was true of professors. Online was completely foreign to many people. The significance of this study was to determine how much more students' success would increase with the emergency remote teaching evolving and improving into online quality courses. It typically takes 6 to 9 months for faculty to prepare an online course. And then honestly, it really takes teaching at one time online to be able to work out the tweaks and to make final improvements, and continuous improvement should go from there. ERT was accepted as adequate by students that spring semester, basically because everyone knew there was no time and everyone did it the best they could in the time that was allowed. However, we also knew that students were going to expect more in the fall semester. Professional development was heavy at hand, trying to get everyone caught up and moving forward. And the hope was that with this professional development, faculty would become engaged and involved with learning about online teaching and continue to seek out more professional development after they had received the first. Findings from this study with hopes would be to let institutions know what they could do to be proactive rather than reactive with evidence-based planning, to create organizational support throughout the institution for all online students with online services and online programs, for all of the online stakeholders within the institution, and to create a culture for online learning at institutions that maybe was not there before, or it was somewhat weak and needed to be more defined. The emergency remote teaching term is defined in my research by Hodges that I used as a temporary shift to an alternative mode of delivery because of crisis circumstances. But as we all know, ERT, although it was very relevant to all of us during the pandemic, ERT might be necessary for any of our students at any time, as well as to professors or instructors at any time, simply because life happens and things come up. I got some statistics that helped me get started. This is from the author June 2020 about what kind of the feel was from faculty right after ERT. And 50% of faculty in this survey agreed that their ERT courses were inferior to what they were doing that spring semester before the shutdown. So for in-person classes or hybrid classes, putting it online quickly, they knew they didn't have it quite right as to what they would have done if they had had more time or stayed in their original modality. 67%, however, said that they actually still had a positive experience with ERT, just knowing what they could do online and what the possibilities of online had become. 39% of faculty acknowledged they needed some professional development to learn the differences between teaching online and in person. And they also realized that they needed to learn more about the tools in their LMS and just web tools, educational tools in general. For our students, we looked at who are they and what do we need to do to prepare for them with some formal trainings and professional development. And with community college students, we knew that although they liked the flexibility that we offered with online courses and specific programs that weren't offered at four-year institutions, they still liked to come on campus. They still liked to visit the professors, take a class or two on campus, use the computer labs, meet with other students. And so we knew they wanted that interaction. They wanted that connection. And we had to find a way to be able to offer that to them online. So we came up with some ideas for what we should make sure all of our faculty had over those summer months to prepare for the fall 2020 semester when we knew we were going to stay online. So we had two professional development workshops that we wanted to make sure all faculty took. One was with the LMS, which we use Canvas, two-week asynchronous training, and also a 2-week asynchronous workshop for learning about online pedagogy in a workshop that was called Strategies for Teaching Online that was created by New Mexico State University. These 2-week workshops for a total of 4 weeks was mandated by our institution to be taken over those summer months. This was really unprecedented for our institution, who had never mandated professional development before, but had only encouraged it. So while we had these two professional developments already offered at our school, they were never mandated. So summer became work time for our 9-month faculty who were not paid for this, but they were given a small stipend of $450. We also offered a network of mentors. Mentors were called upon as the online senior faculty or faculty who had a lot of experience in teaching online. They became mentors, and they also were the facilitators in the online professional development trainings and workshops. These mentors were not used readily. They were used by a small amount of faculty because mentors were not really utilized at our institution before, and there was a slow buy-in for them. However, the people that did use mentors, both the mentor and the mentee, said that they greatly benefited from the dialogue, the brainstorming, and the experience in general of collegiality. Most of our faculty members are part-time. In fact, 3/4 of them are, and that added to a greater struggle to be able to connect mentors with part-timers and for the part-timers to be able to find time to work on the professional development requirements. I did this research as a qualitative study using a phenomenological approach. This definitely was a phenomenon to have a pandemic and have virtually the higher education across the entire world go online, but it was very relevant and it worked beautifully for this research. I used purposeful sampling. I wanted to make sure that the participants in this study that were from the community college had in fact done the LMS training, the online pedagogy workshop, professional development workshop, that they did engage using a mentor, and that they taught an online class in the fall 2020, making sure that they went straight from emergency remote teaching to professional development and mentoring in the summer, straight to applying and teaching that online course in the fall so that they could see what the effects of all that summer effort played. I was hoping to get 5 participants. Happily, I ended up with 7. They had a great range according to their experience in teaching in general and their specific experience in teaching online. Many had never taught an online class before. There was also a representation of full-time and part-time, as well as general education and career and technical education studies. So these professors represented pretty much everything that there was at our institution. I used semi-structured interviewing. I had a series of questions I asked, but they were all very open-ended, and the participants had the ability to talk as much as they wanted, reflect as they talked, and I just followed up with them by paraphrasing, making sure I had understanding, empathically listening, and asking them how they felt about certain things that they were recalling or thoughts that they were remembering. I had 3 interviews. The first interview was to ask the questions and just let them talk. 3 days to a week later, I had a second interview with them, each of them individually on Zoom, recorded, transcribed and where I could see their facial expressions and hear their voices. 3 days to a week later, I had the second interview in which I asked them to expand on things they said, had a few extra questions to probe them a little bit more, to think deeper. And then most of them said that in the time between the interviews, they recalled more things they wanted to share or new thoughts that they had. And then 3 days to a week after the second interview was the third and final interview, in which, again, I let them talk if they wanted to, but then I also let them know what I had written down or what I had gleaned from them to make sure I had it correct so they can make corrections or clarify or change anything I had. From all of these interviews, I was able to find essences or categories and be able to see the big picture that all of them were bringing forward from their own experiences. The interview questions for my research, they were 3. I wanted to see what the influence of the professional development and the mentorship was, and then specifically the differences they saw between their technical skills and their online pedagogical skills and knowledge. The second question I had in my research is what changes were made from that spring shutdown when we went to ERT to the transition through the summer months to what they would call a more quality course in fall 2020. And then lastly, the third question was, where do they go from here? Do they intend to continue to look for professional development? Do they intend to continue to create more quality online courses? Or do they find that they just want to get back in person, or they've done enough, that's all they were going to do? So in other words, what is the intent? Where do they go from here? There were 4 themes that emerged from looking at these 7 participants' interviews, and then an overarching theme that just resonated throughout all of these 4 themes. So let me tell you what the 4 themes were first, and then I'll hit you with that overarching theme. The first theme was the pleasant surprise from all of the faculty from what they gleaned or received from that mandated professional development. The second one was the awakening they had from having the student perspective, being in professional development in the student seat in a Canvas course. The third was how the mentor was able to close the loop from them, from going from professional development to applying it to their own courses. And then lastly, the biggest change they saw from all of this was in their interaction that they embedded in their course design and that they utilized throughout the semester in their course delivery. The overarching theme with the drum roll was the fact that throughout all of this, all of these essences and these themes and all of the interviews, the faculty echoed over and over again, I didn't know what I didn't know. So let me dig just a bit deeper on each one of these themes. The professional development was mandated. We were worried about that, on how faculty would receive that mandate, because literature says, first off, professional development isn't really useful to faculty if they don't immediately apply it, or there isn't an immediate use for it. There definitely was here, so we were hopeful they would be grateful for it. And as you can see from my table, we had a lot of faculty who had not completed the professional development as we had hoped they would by just encouraging it or expecting it. And when you talk to the faculty, there was kind of a broad range from I was annoyed to hear I had to do it to where I was extremely grateful. And then kind of that general, we should have been doing it all along. Thank goodness we started at least now. The stipend was helpful. It did have a positive impact. Some said that they really appreciated their work going noticed, even if it was a small amount of money, to where others said, you know, the stipend was nice to have, but we needed to get this done. We needed to learn more and we needed to prepare for our students. The second theme that emerged was on the awakening that faculty had being in the student seat in that professional development. So literature says that that's the best thing you can do for online training and professional development, is to give the participant the experience of seeing how course design should be created, with the course flow, with instructions, with due dates, expectations, interaction, all of those things. When you're in the student's seat, that's the greatest knowledge you can have when you go back into the instructor or the the designer seat, knowing what it's like for your user. Faculty said this was huge for them, that seeing the course design in the professional development done in modules, the due dates, the different places where they could get communication from the instructor and from other students, the tools that were used in the LMS and the web tools that were embedded, all of these things were very significant and impactful for the faculty to receive them as the student and not just give them as the instructor or the designer. The faculty said that especially the feedback was very helpful and the specific Canvas tools were very helpful, but they really appreciated seeing how other teachers taught and what it felt like on the user end. They also said that they developed an appreciation for the community of inquiry framework and the different levels, the different presences that were embedded in this online experience as the COI always delivers. The third essence was the closing the loop. And the closing the loop was when the mentor really came into play. So mentors don't always have a great effect if they're just assigned to somebody and said, here they are if you need anything. However, having a mentor kind of at the right place at the right time, being able to meet the faculty exactly where they were in that moment, proved to be very helpful. So faculty said that they were in the andragogical, that andragogy stage when they were in the professional development. They were, used saying, what was your experience, faculty, and here's some things you could try when they were in professional development. But when they left professional development and they went back to their courses and said, I'm in emergency remote teaching mode here, but I want to transition to quality online courses, they went into that hudagogy frame set where they were looking to really be autonomous with how they were going to apply what they had learned. And this is when calling on a mentor to say, this is what I want to do, help me think it through so I can apply it. That's where the mentor could meet them where they were, take them to the next stage, and really be beneficial. The faculty said that they absolutely loved the mentors at this stage of the game. They said that they really couldn't use the mentor so much before the professional development. It really was necessary after, when they knew what questions they wanted to ask and they knew what they wanted to achieve, just needed a little help getting there. Theme 4 was in the change. The biggest change that the faculty said they made from their ERT to the quality online was in their engagement. So there was two different roads there. One was in the course design. They embedded engagement in there by having weekly announcements, more tailored and continuous feedback on assignments. They were popping into the discussion boards more. They were sending more private emails to interact with individual students more. So all of these things is what literature says we should do. But then when the faculty had it done to them as the student in the professional development, they really realized how important it was. They said they enjoyed the feedback that the facilitator was getting to them, and they were actually checking in more to see if they had gotten any yet. And so all of that was very impactful in the course design, knowing there would be a weekly announcement, knowing that a rubric was used, knowing that the instructor would be popping in and out of the discussion all the time. All of those guarantees that were embedded were impactful. The course delivery literature also says that instructors need to be present, have that instructor presence, as we say in the COI, community of inquiry. That teacher presence is extremely impactful in andragogy and hudagogy, more so than even the peer-to-peer presence and interaction. So the faculty said that having that facilitator there was tremendous, that they wanted a facilitator that they knew was skilled and experienced, knew what they were talking about. They wanted an instructor that they felt comfortable with and not as being judged because that faculty member had to ask questions that they felt maybe they should have already known, but they didn't. So all of this was very impactful in bringing together what the mentor meant, what the facilitator for the professional development, how important it was that they were faculty, and just the interaction of all of it. It all came together and made sense for the faculty member to know what to do, to take that ERT to online course quality. If we look at all of the themes that bubbled up, we see that overarching theme, I didn't know what I didn't know, all of the faculty participants said 100%, I didn't know what I didn't know. And then in the other 4 themes, it really varied. Some of them felt that the professional development was the pivot for them. Others thought the mentor was. It just depended, but what was interesting to see was that all of this was impactful, all of this was necessary, and all of it is important to note that it was because faculty did not know what they did not know about online teaching and learning. So as we move forward, my recommendations for professional development in the future would be that there should be a 3-step design. All faculty who are to be online or transitioning from in-person to online, this would work for all of them. They should have training and professional development in their LMS to learn about how to set it up, design it, and use the tools. They should also have professional development in online pedagogy, knowing the difference between being instructor-centered and student-centered, and backward design if they're doing hybrid, and then having a mentor to help them after they've had the professional development. And I think that's the key, is that the mentor comes in after, specifically to help in that pedagogical stage of applying everything they've learned in professional development to their own courses. It would also be a strong recommendation to have more professional development ready to go once this 3-step design has been done, because then faculty are hungry to learn more. They want to learn more about the Canvas or LMS tools. They want to learn more about web tools. They want to learn more about interactions with students and a variety of other things. So to be prepared to continue to offer more would be highly recommended to catch faculty in that momentum while they're riding that wave and they're seeing big change and getting those student evaluations saying this was a great class. This was limiting in the fact that it was a highly stressful time for institutions, highly stressful for faculty, and highly stressful for students. It would be interesting to know how all of this plays out in a less stressful time, although I think it would transfer nicely even in a less stressful time. So areas for further research would be to look at applying this 3-step process in a less stressful time, or not during a pandemic at least. Second, to look at the impact of the mentor after the professional development and that pedagogical stage of awareness and applying their practice. And then third, to look at the change in the instructor attitude. How do they change in their ideas and attitudes towards online teaching and learning after the professional development and mentoring, after applying it and seeing what happens with their students and in their courses, in their grades and in their evaluations? What do faculty think after all of this has happened? Some thoughts just to take with you, and thank you so much for your time and listening to my presentation. It's really important to have a reward, incentive, or a mandated policy. As much as I cringe to say that, it could be necessary to make sure that faculty members do engage in professional development and possibly mentoring in order to keep moving forward with ERT transition to quality online courses, because we need to keep moving forward. Faculty are going to have to keep moving forward to meet student expectations. Our students are just going to keep getting more sophisticated. They were taking online courses in middle school and high school because of the pandemic, and they're going to keep expecting more of their institutions and their faculty for what they're seeing in their online courses. This is incredibly important for us to stay competitive and relevant, and for our students to continue to have confidence in us and in online modalities. Because as a last thought that I want to leave you with, when our students are online and they aren't on campus at all or not very much, it is the instructor, the faculty, the professor, and what the students see in that online course that becomes the face of the institution. Thank you so much again. Here's my contact information. I'll have this PowerPoint available to you. If you would like to read my entire paper, just email me and I'd be happy to send it to you. Thank you again.